In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
The Spirit has descended from heaven to earth. I can't believe I'm talking to people. Real people. This is amazing. It's very refreshing. You can see I'm all choked up about it too, but I'm sorry. Today, my friends, is the first Sunday after Pentecost. And the church reserves and refers to this Sunday, the Sunday after Pentecost, as the Sunday of All Saints, Τον Αγίων Πάντων. And it's a brilliant move by Mother Church to associate All Saints with Pentecost, because saintliness is a fruit of Pentecost, the coming of the Holy Spirit. It is only by the Holy Spirit that we can live lives that are pleasing to the Lord, because saintliness is not accomplished through willpower or some loyalty to some cause or some dead hero. We are serving a living God who sent the power of His Holy Spirit. To the degree that we allow the energies of the Holy Spirit to mingle with our fallen nature, we too can become like saints. We can be better versions of ourselves, more noble. The Holy Spirit changes everything. How else can you explain the martyrs of the early church who looked death in the eye and never blinked? When I was serving at the Annunciation Greek Orthodox Church in Memphis, Tennessee, I invited Reverend Dr. Alkiviadis Kalivas to our community for the Lenten Lecture Series. And I'll never forget one of the things he said that night concerning the saints. He said, "It is not that they were good. It is that they were different." There is something about that statement that is so profound to me. And I've spent years ever since trying to understand it and trying to explain it. It's not that they were good. It's they were different. I think I may have caught at least a glimpse of that on a baseball diamond, a softball diamond, 35 to 40 years ago, somewhere around that time, in Miami, Florida. I was playing in a competitive men's softball league, and we were going up against this team that was a powerhouse. They went undefeated during the regular season. No one even came close to this team. And they were playing us first round of the playoffs. We played. We were right with them, which they weren't comfortable with, I could tell, because usually they just steamroll their way through. And so it was competitive, and we were right with them. And so we started, trash talking a little bit. And it got to them. And we gained the advantage. And then the wheels came off. This team lost their pride, their dignity, everything. They started arguing with us, of course, which we loved. They argued with each other. They argued with the umpire on every call. Everything went against them, and it was just a blowout. And it was an embarrassment to them. And I was loving it. And I'm afraid I threw in a couple of, teases or whatever you call them, insults. But at one point, I noticed their catcher, the catcher on the team. And I noticed that he not once gave in to the passion of anger and revenge. Not once. And not only that, he even tried to get his team to not lose their composure, to lose their poise. He kept trying. I could see on his face, he just looked different. And I'll tell you, I lost my joy because I just gazed my eyes on this guy. After the game, you know, in softball, when you blow out a team, sometimes, you know, you try to say nice game and show good sportsmanship. When it's a blowout like this, and when everything is the way it was, it's better to just say nothing. And so we just went our separate ways. But I just felt that I had to go over there and say something to this guy. Now, my whole self wasn't convicted of this. My feet were kind of going, but my heart and my mind was, what are you going to say? What are you talking? Where are you going? What are you doing? So I was like this, I don't know. And I'm drifting across the ball diamond, going to their dugout. And I just looked into their dugout. One of them looked at me as if to say, what do you want? And I looked to the catcher. And I'm telling you, I didn't even know what to say, but something just welled up in me and the words just spilled out. Do you go to church? And he looked and he said, how did you know? And I was so relieved because it could have gone any other way. Oh boy, something different. We became friends afterwards, and we've lost touch since, but it was really beautiful to me. Let's look a little deeper into this concept. In fact, let's look into the word saint itself. The Apostle Paul used the Greek word agios when he was talking about the saints. Agios, agi. Now, when that term agios is used, within that Greek word, you have another Greek word. Agios, you have yis. Yis means earth. When you put an A in front of it, it changes the whole meaning. A lot of words in Greek and in English, when you put an A or an alpha in front of it, it changes the whole meaning. For example, the word theist. You're describing a theist, a person who believes in God. But if you put an A in front of it, it's an atheist, someone who doesn't believe in God. You have a social person, very social, gets along with everyone, loves the crowd. But then you have an asocial person who's not comfortable in big crowds. You have political people. We see it all around us. Hound dogs for politics. But then you have apolitical people who say, don't bother me with that stuff. The same is true in the Greek. When you're describing a child who is quiet and gentle, you might say issykos. You might use the term issykos. Είναι ήσυχο παιδί. He's a gentle, good-natured child. But if you put the alpha in front of it, now you're talking about a child who is fitful and anxious, anisykos. The same is true for the word agios. When you talk about yis, of the earth, when you put an A in front of it, agios, it's not of this earth. Different. Saint. Someone who is different. Not just a believer in God, who likes his Christianity on his own terms with his own agenda and own political agenda, leaning on his own understanding, his own private interpretation of things. No, this is not just a believer in God on your terms. The saint is a follower of God. He's a follower of the ecclesiastical Christ. And he has a certain, unlike the believer who just goes around trying to put his own imprint on everything and his own, way of doing things, and this is the way, rather than that self-assured, arrogant style, which I can't stand, the saint has something about him that is a certain saving self-dissatisfaction. He acknowledges the struggles and the dark passions that he has within him, just like that catcher. So everything, rather than giving into that, he struggled. He was trying to keep it together. I love people like that. Different. His desire is not merely to follow a moral code, which he seeks to have others imposed, have those codes imposed on other people. Rather, he desires, the only thing he desires is to be like Christ. That's it. There's no other goal. There's no other agenda. He's trying to be like Christ. Someone struggling like that just looks different to me. A simple conclusion today. Don't settle. Don't justify the things, the temptations, the passions of this world that you know are beneath you. Come out from among them, friends. Be ye separate. Be ye, be ye different. God bless you today.